SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
It's going to be a long, dry season for those who have participated in DraftKings NFT Marketplace and Reignmaker contests, as the company has abruptly ceased operations on this project this week. We're going to talk about why the operator is giving up on the crypto space, as well as a major signing for Underdog Fantasy on today's episode of iGaming Daily. iGaming Daily is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. You too can take advantage of Optimove. Get a first month free by going to optimove.com/SBC. We've got the link for that in the description below. And with that, I am Jessica Welman, editor of SBC Americas, joined by media manager Charlie Horner. Charlie, have you ever dabbled in the crypto space?
No, I haven't. It's something that I've read a lot about, learnt a lot about, and to be honest, actively avoided for the last few years. So I
was like, read a lot about, learned some about, still feel like I know nothing about the crypto space, but we're going to do our best with this today. Okay, so you were around at SBC Americas when this launched, so you might have we've written a little bit about it, but never really dabbled too much in DraftKings NFT Marketplace.
Yeah, this is something that's quite interesting. Obviously something that I'm aware of and probably written about over the last few years. And at the time, it made a lot of sense. Crypto around this time was booming. NFTs were taking
really
off big
booming,
time.
yeah.
And a lot of celebrities and sports stars were getting heavily involved in NFTs at this time. But almost as quickly as this scene has risen, it has fallen just as fast.
Yeah, that was a very flash in the pan kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are very, very specific circumstances of why this venture has finished, which we'll come on to shortly. But yeah, it's been a very up and down few years for the crypto and NFT space.
Yeah, so this one, to give a little bit of context, it was in 2021, really when NFTs were booming, that they announced that they were getting into this with the DraftKings marketplace. They had Tom Brady NFTs and athlete NFTs. And then a little further down the line launched what were called Reignmaker contests, where you essentially look through your portfolio of NFTs and put together a fantasy sports lineup with them to enter into contests. And then I don't really feel like we heard about it for a while. This was not something that took off, that ever was like a huge thing. And as you noted, NFTs kind of had their moment and very quickly stopped having their moment. So earlier this week, DraftKings basically said, we're done with this, and you can, cash out what you have and we will give you compensation for it. But based on, a changing legal situation, we're gonna give this the boot. Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously the legal ramifications of why they've had to close down are profound. But how much money this was making for DraftKings over the last few years, I'm not entirely sure. They probably would say that it's a way of attracting a different demographic of player, someone who can come in who are, slightly more tech savvy, a little bit more different from the typical recreational sports bettor, and convert those people into sports bettors. But I'm not entirely sure how much this was making for DraftKings on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this was a financial boon for them. They did not really speak about it on earnings calls. It was not something that I think ever fully succeeded. But you were right. Most of the reason it's being shut down is legal. And what's going on is that someone brought a class action lawsuit against them in the federal courts in Massachusetts. And earlier this month, to give you an idea how long the legal system takes, this thing was filed at like the start of 2023. And just to get a ruling on the motion to dismiss, which is a very early piece of any court proceeding, it took about a year and a half. So this motion to dismiss was denied by a district court judge earlier this month. And basically what the lawsuit said was, hi, you're a publicly traded company, regulated sportsbook selling unregulated securities in the form of these NFTs and things. And that's always been kind of why operators don't get anywhere near the crypto space. And it was always a little weird to me that DraftKings was so gung-ho about it. But yeah, they sided with the plaintiff on this one, saying there's a thing called the Howey test to determine if something is a security or not, where you're basically saying, is it something that like has real money value? Is it something that, you know, anybody can kind of participate in? And then is the value of what you're buying contingent on a third party doing things to make it worth more? And they said that it satisfied all of those, in particular because DraftKings, you know, when it first started this thing, they had a bunch of podcasts. They had, I'm not sure if he's crossed the pond. Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V is like a big entrepreneur over here. He was on a podcast with Matt Kalish, who is the DraftKings executive president of North America for DraftKings, talking about how you're going to make money by investing in these. So that was not great for them. Other statements by Kalish suggesting that you're going to make money. It was not great for them. And then it's also, so these things, like in theory, you could take them to your crypto wallet and you could take them out of the DraftKings marketplace. But like really the only times these transactions were taking place was in that DraftKings marketplace space. So that lawsuit's moving forward. And about 3 weeks later, the announcement came that they're like, okay, we gotta shut up shop here. What will be interesting, so in this lawsuit, I think, I read so much legal stuff, I'm pretty sure they argue that the valuation at one point of all the NFTs and stuff on this thing was like $400 million. I don't think DraftKings is paying out $400 million on the value of these NFTs. I think people are going to get like pennies on what peak value was. Some of that is par for the course, is my understanding for NFTs, as we've noted. Plenty of people have lost a lot of money on this, but people who had these portfolios I don't think are getting tens of thousands of dollars for them.
No, I highly doubt it. But just going back to the lawsuit and the arguments that have been laid out, I have to say that I'm not surprised that the judges ruled in this way, because there has been this sort of repackaging of NFTs and cryptocurrency more widely as an investment vehicle. The whole notion of it's not cryptocurrency, it's a crypto asset. It's something that if you buy, it's going to go up in value. These NFTs you can buy for $1,000 and in a couple of years they'll be, 10 times worth. And for a publicly listed sportsbook to be dabbling in this world, albeit in, wrapped up in fantasy sports, I'm not surprised they've decided to close it down under these circumstances. And from this conversation that we're having, Jess, I don't think you're one of the big proponents of crypto either, but do you get that same sense that this was always sort of on the cards?
I don't know if it, again, this is where I just admit I don't know as much about crypto, because in my head, I'm just like, well, they can't touch it. There's a long list of AML and other reasons, unregulated securities, that thankfully it hasn't seeped over into our line of work too much. But it always was one that I raised an eyebrow at, and I was like, I don't know how that's okay. But, the NFT piece, because what was it? They're like, oh, it's a collectible. Yeah. I love when you were like, oh, it's not a crypto security, it's a crypto asset. It reminds me of like, oh, a slot machine. No, our thing isn't a slot machine. It has reels and sevens and cherries, but like it's a horse racing experience. it kind of reminds me of these kinds of arguments.
I think it is worth saying, though, that that there are a lot of people who are really into the crypto space, and there are companies who are working at bringing those kind of products into the gaming space, and similar with NFTs. I think there's people who are really sort of vocal in their support of NFTs and the way they can be applied in different use cases. It's probably just worth mentioning that this is just in one case where
that's a very good point to make, that I don't think this is going to be some court case cited in every crypto case ever. It's just this particular instance of it because of comments that were made and the way that it's structured, that it kind of fell this way. So that's the story on that. The lawsuit we'll certainly be keeping tabs on. DraftKings racking up some legal bills this year. They've got that lawsuit. I know that they had a hearing. There's a Massachusetts state court case that is a class action lawsuit regarding their bonus offer and whether it is false advertising or misleading advertising. I know that they had a hearing on that last week, and we're kind of waiting for the next news there. We have the Hermelin case that keeps on going and giving, and so far DraftKings has been on the winning side of a lot of things. I think in California this week they had another ruling go their way. So you can keep tuning into SBC Americas, where, we're just DraftKingsLegalReport.com and for all of that. All right, we're going to take a break real quick and shift focus to a signing that Charlie heard me shout an expletive when I saw happen because I was so shocked by it. We'll tell you who that is and what it involves when we come back.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Welcome back to iGaming Daily. Charlie, I know the answer of this because we talked about it on a call yesterday, but Bill Belichick is an NFL coach that here is more famous than most players. Has he made it much across the pond?
This is the first time that I'm going to be able to say I've heard of this guy. I've heard of him. I think, as NFL's grown over in the UK, there is a large and loyal fan base. So I'm confident that a lot of UK listeners will have heard of Bill Belichick.
If you got his name wrong, that would have been perfect. That guy. So yes, Bill Belichick. If you don't know who he is, one of the most successful, if not the most successful NFL coach in history, multiple Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowl wins with the New England Patriots, has since left the organization, currently, doing some media stuff, and apparently now representing Underdog Sports. What's interesting about this, for those who don't know Bill Belichick, naturally not the most, camera-ready guy. Very kind of gruff in press conferences a lot of the time, not one to be excited to talk to the media. Yet this deal is going to be a video series throughout the NFL, sponsored and, done with Underdog, where he's going to break down film and talk about players in a very kind of open sort of way.
It sounds like a fantastic deal for Underdog to get a man of that stature in the game, and with so much success as well, to be breaking down the game. I'm sure lots of fans will be heading over to the Underdog platform to get some of those insights. Yeah,
this is going to be a YouTube series, so even if you aren't an Underdog person, you can still go and watch. They didn't disclose how much, they never really disclose how much they're paying them. I'm sure he's getting a substantial chunk of change. What's really interesting about this in terms of just street cred is we've had many a pod over the past 18 months about various states where Underdog and Prize Picks and those that offer fantasy against the house have been told that they're in violation of the rules or that they're, unregulated or doing something wrong. So to have somebody of this stature affiliated with the company, in addition to just bringing eyeballs, I think brings a certain amount of credibility to the average person that this is on the up and up.
Yeah, I mean, we were, as we were saying, briefly chatting about this yesterday, and I think it does. There's been so many legal tensions around the Underdog product and how they're doing things, that having someone of this weight and stature and authority does give Underdog maybe not the legal boost, but definitely a PR boost in terms of its reputation amongst fans.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to change the mind of regulators, but as kind of negative press has come out around them, I think to the average person, you feel a little bit better about taking part in something when you can see professional teams, professional people kind of associated with it. I will play devil's advocate on this a second. You tell me, can you think of any other coach of a sport that has moved the needle for any sports betting, fantasy, casino operator?
I mean, here in the UK, we have a former football manager, Harry Redknapp, doing sort of adverts for sports books, but it's not really in the same way in terms of doing actual analytical content, though I think it can work. In sports broadcasting here, we often have guests on like Monday Night Football who will join the normal punditry gang and do some guest punditry. Usually that's in terms of helping them get a bit of exposure so they get their next job. I'm not sure Bill Belichick needs a boost in his public relations to get another job, but I think it can work. But it seems like it's a new route for US sports.
Yeah, I think we've had some that maybe have been spokespeople. And I think, certainly there are podcasts and other video content with former coaches. In fact, I think Underdog has one already with Jay Gruden, who does a podcast with Colt McCoy under the Underdog kind of media banner. I think there's certainly incremental fandom and stuff you can get from this, but when you're investing in somebody of this stature, I don't know what the expectations are, but I'm not positive on this. I'm curious to see the content too. I think that's really going to be the make or break of this. If he's giving just crazy good insights and looking and talking about football in a way that hasn't been seen in the space, maybe it can really actually have a huge impact. I'm going to be rather agnostic on this until I see a little more of like what it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think the crux of it is in the content. Is he going to want to put all of his time and effort into making this the most groundbreaking analytical content that you've ever seen? Probably not. I mean, if he does end up getting another NFL job, he probably wants to keep some of his secrets to himself. But he could add another dimension and attract a whole new audience. So
I would love if he became just preoccupied with views and subscribers of his YouTube channel. It would be such an interesting turn for him. We just spent a lot of time talking about content. I think as we go into football season, you're going to inevitably see a load of new announcements about content deals and that sort of thing. But what we've also seen are some pretty epic collapses and fails of content deals. We're coming up on the year anniversary of Barstool, a content company, getting sold back to Dave Portnoy for $1 after it was, hundreds of millions of dollars was invested in it. And then to a smaller scale, recently DraftKings sold back VSiN to Brent Musburger, who, rumor is it was also like a handful, pennies and a lollipop, and here you go, you can have this company back. They never announced how much they spent on it, but the rumor is about $70 million. is the content format of bringing people into sports betting the problem, or is the fact that these deals were just massively overvaluing what these companies could do for a sportsbook operator the problem?
That's a potentially a $500 million question.
Six more podcasts on this topic alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what a lot of people are finding out is that it probably isn't as lucrative as they thought a few years ago. I think a lot of it probably has to come down to, can they compete with the traditional broadcasters who have the rights to show the actual games? I mean, I don't think DraftKings can incorporate sort of NFL or NBA games into their coverage. They're just relying on the outside insights of these sort of pundits and celebrity names who can talk about it. There's an oversaturation of content within the sports media market, and there's only so many eyeballs and ears to consume this content. So undoubtedly there's going to be winners and losers.
Yeah. Listen, I think content can do lots of stuff. Specifically our content. Contact our sales media person for how we can help you with our content. But we reached a point where just everything was being overvaluated in sports betting. VSiN is a great company, Vegas based. They had the studio in South Point, very savvy on like the bettors who were taking it fairly seriously. Really great group of people. But like, those people are already converted, like they know sports betting is there, that there wasn't necessarily the built-in ability to convert new people to DraftKings that was worth $70 million. So I think as long as people are tempering their expectations about content, we'll continue to see it be an important part of the sports betting space, but it's going to be smaller scale. We're not going to see these 9-figure, 8-figure deals for content in the future. All right, we are fully out of time. So I know you love consuming our content, though. You can check out all of our written content on SBC Americas, and you can head over to our YouTube page and just look at all of the things in the SBC portfolio. Until next time on iGaming Daily.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.